Hi, guys. Welcome to the Intelligent Diva music channel. And today I just wanted to come on to talk a little bit about my upcoming release. Okay, so most of you know me as Intelligent Diva. I created the name in reference to the fact that I'm like a tech geek by heart. I work in the field of technology. I've actually done everything from like beta testing, software testing. I'm a test lead. I've also managed projects. I've done, BSA work, and I've also done a lot of research and actual development work around artificial intelligence. Now, it has not been in relation to my job when it comes to artificial intelligence initially, because I started artificial intelligence research like 2010, okay? And so what made me go into that angle had nothing to do with entertainment. I am strictly pointing myself at all of the entrepreneurs who have a small business. My thought process has always been like, if you actually see a lot of large corporations, and just because you have a small business doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to function like a large corporation. And having a background in the corporate industry, after having several mentors who were actual entrepreneurs, meaning I've worked with them. I've seen them do it from the ground up before I even got into it, and it has nothing to do with music. It's the business, period. You got to have your foundation. And one of the things that I saw a lot of businesses struggle with are those financial burdens, those same burdens that you guys see today. Every time we turn around, sometimes we want to hire a new team. You may not have enough money to hire a new team. You have these tedious administrative tasks that you have to continuously probably repeat doing. And you just don't have the ability to do it. So in that case, that was my primary reason for starting to study artificial intelligence. And also, we were already using it, and a lot of times at that particular time you didn't hear too many people talk about it. You didn't even know that it was being utilized. So in that case, as you learn more about it, it's becoming more apparent now because of the fact that it has grown. A lot of people are using the most current artificial intelligence. So let's stop there. Okay, the first thing that I want to bring out to everyone is there are ethics. So even though, I admit there are some people who artificial intelligence can get into the wrong hands, and, you know, it's not a good thing. But luckily, they have started to put some laws in place. I am an advocate for more laws to be put in place because of the fact artificial intelligence was never designed to replace people's jobs. You got to have some human authorship. You got to have a human being. There's a human being who trains it. It's basically learning from you. And believe it or not, there are some scientists right now who are actually studying artificial intelligence, and they're training it off of the human intelligence of a human being. So all of the algorithms, all of those different things you see that you do it, even if it's a strategy that you have, they have it to where you can now customize your own GPT, and you're giving it those requirements. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. There are some ethics. Now, what I will bring you to is we're going to talk about some of those ethics because I want to bring them up in my next project that I will be sharing with you today. Okay, so now let's talk about ethics. First, I want to say several states and also different lawmakers, and then you do have, like perhaps some of the labor enforcement agencies, These are on an individual state basis. Sometimes also there are some countries who are also doing it where they are starting to put things in place because a lot of corporations, once they see how much money that they can save by using AI, some people are starting to replace people. Do I think that's a good idea? No, I don't, because of the fact that, you know, artificial intelligence can be biased. And this is not something that I'm saying that just started happening. It actually has been um I want to say something that's been around since the 1950s, where several scientists have also came forward and they, gave their actual, use case studies around different scenarios where it did not, um, it seemed to be a bit biased. And not to put a spoiler or damper on things, but that's part of what my actual project, the Centennials, is about. I will be showcasing some of that because of the fact that, today there are a lot of people who are, you know, experiencing that fear. I even have that fear because I work in the field of technology. Now, me actually having a fear of artificial intelligence, what I have been praying for and rooting for is that lawmakers actually do, you know, put some restrictions or limitations on, companies actually saying they want to totally replace all their employees, or, it's okay to, cut down on when you say administrative costs. Okay, so a lot of things that I'm going to mention to you, you may hear some companies talk about automation. Well, automation is only good for repeating tasks, but guess what, that automation is like a bot. So that bot is only mimicking the task that a human does repetitively every single day. If you're going to keep that person and you're going to have that person use that automation, then you're only cutting down on efficiency. You're still paying the person. Now, the biggest cost administrative savings is when you have an employee who is a hybrid employee, meaning that they can perform more than one task, where they can perform more than one role, but you give them the tools in order for them to do it. Now, if you're giving them a tool that is an automation tool, or if you're giving them a tool that is an AI tool and they're trained on how to use it, because get this, even though you bring someone in that has the technology experience to go and be creative and build you some type of automation app or whatever it is that you need, guess what? That person could be missing the knowledge of the industry of what you are actually in. Therefore, you need someone who can think outside of the box to give you in those gaps, those extra layers in whatever it is that you're building. Now, with music, a lot of people seem to think that it takes the creativity out. It does not take the creativity out. I'm going to say this. It does not take the creativity out if you are a creator, meaning that the first thing when you're creating a project is it has to have requirements. And whether or not those requirements come from you determines whether or not you can claim that copyright. So let's talk about it. Okay, so what I mean by that is, let's take ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a box, a field, which is pretty much your prompt text field. If you have someone, just like you searching on Google, you're using AI when you're doing that. So if you ask Google or you ask ChatGPT, show me all of the top high paying jobs for 2025, you're giving that prompt a command. Now, if you were to go into the restaurant and you say that you actually want to order a steak, And then the waiter or the waitress is asking you, well, how do you want your steak? And if you actually are a person who is very thorough, like I am, you're going to tell them without them asking you. But if you're not sure, then usually you're going to wait for a recommendation from the waiter or the waitress to tell you so that it can prompt your memory as to whether or not you would like to try what you have in mind on how you usually would order, or whether or not you want to try something new. Okay, well, it's the same with these tools that you're hearing about as far as like Suno, TAD AI. When you are a songwriter, you are writing the song, you are writing your own lyrics. Those tools give you the option to do that. That is not taking away your craft. When you are basically saying that I want you to write me a song about some yogurt. Okay. Now, the tools are not designed just to take one line sentences. It has actual fields and filters to ask you questions about your song. In some cases, it can say experimental, whether or not you just want to go with whatever they generate. Then if you're going with whatever they generate, then that is not your song to claim. Now, if you are basically continuing your same process that you do today, where you write your song, you actually have the song structure. You know you want it to be a pop song, or you want it to be a rap song, or you want it to be a country song. You specify that. Or you know that if you're actually going to have someone create you like a demo song for it, then you say, okay, do I hear an actual male singing this song, or do I hear a female singing this song? When you give those type of requirements, just like if you were working with a producer and the producer was, creating a customized beat for you. Once you start saying, hey, you know what, I want to like a, you can tell them, hey, I want to be able to have like a club type beat, or I want a gospel song. I wanted to have, violins or drums, tambourines. When you're describing what you want, that is you giving requirements. And within these song tools, you're required to put those requirements in there. Now, some of them have filters where they will strictly ask you for this information, and you can plug that information in. Some of all of the tools may not have every filter that you want. It may not have tempo. It may not have that you want someone who sings in a vocal range of a soprano or an alto. Those are the details that I give it. And because it doesn't have that in those tools, that's why I built my own ScoreFlow GPT, which means I'm building the app that I'm giving it my requirements. I'm giving it the data that I want it to have, so that when I go and if I use another song tool like TED AI, it's going to help me with that 300 character description. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm a Virgo, and I can be long-winded and I can write a lot. And I need somebody to sum up all of that in 300 characters. It can't be me. Okay, so a little bit about the creative space. You do have the opportunity, if you are a songwriter, to either use a tool that will help you write the song. That's what my ScoreFlow GPT does. Or you can get any type of chat GPT to help you write, but you got to give it some type of idea. And if you haven't given it, if you say write me a song, then some of these, the way AI is described, there are different types of GPTs. Some of them may be conversational. Some of them may be able to logic and reasoning, meaning if you can't come up with to make a decision on what type of song do you want, it may ask you probing questions so that you're able to actually facilitate or put that information into the tool. Now, with that being said, when someone says, okay, well, what about the copyrights? Where there's a human authorship law, and that human authorship basically says that you cannot claim the copyright on an AI song, and I'm not quoting it verbatim, but you can go and look it up. You cannot claim the authorship on a AI song without giving it some type of input. And it doesn't mean that, can you create me a song about a rainbow? That's not what it means. It means that you have to be able to feed it the requirements so that it is a percentage of you and not a percentage of AI. Just because you type in something into the prompt text, that doesn't mean that it's taking the creativity out. It's basically there to regulate, or should I say reduce, efficiency. So guess what? If I wrote a song for myself and I can picture it in my mind, I want it mixed and mastered a certain way, but I may not be able to communicate to the song or the recording engineer exactly what I'm talking about, then I can put my thoughts into my GPT, who can give me the proper vocabulary so that I can go and have this type of discussion with the the sound engineer or the recording engineer. That's what these tools have the ability to do. Now, I'm not saying that the Suno has that, but I'm saying the ScoreFlow GPT, that is how I build it, because I am the creator. So I do write. I do say the song structure. I do actually do the vocals. Now, here's the thing. When we talk about training, there's certain amount of training. First of all, you're getting the tool is already trained. So if you're using the tool is already trained. However, there are certain, should I say, flags. They're built-in flags to where you cannot say specifically, you can't mention like a celebrity's name, or you can't say certain things that you want it to sound like this. And sometimes you can, because producers do it all the time. They put it on YouTube. This is a Drake-like beat or things like that. But when you listen to it, you know it don't sound like no Drake. It don't sound like it, you know. So that's just a reference. So here's the thing. When you say a reference, sometimes it depends on the type of subscription you have. Some subscriptions automatically allow you to upload something that gives you the ability to have that person or have the tool reference what you want it to sound like. Then it's also a possibility that if you don't have that type of subscription, you can't attach or upload anything to say that you want it to sound like that, which means then you'll have to be creative with whatever you put in that 300 character description. Okay? So now let's talk about how you can make your song humor authorship compliant. Now we get into the creativity of the song. So let's just say, if you are an artist who writes your own music, or you write your own song when you record, when I go to the studio, I usually record with a lot of vocal layers. Okay, I have a lot of tracking that I do, because usually I'm doing the lead vocals, I'm doing the harmonies, I'm also doing, and sometimes I try to make myself sound like I'm about 4 or 5 different people in the song, okay? Because I want it to sound big, and so therefore I do take the time to do that. So, knock out a song, is, I could probably lay down a song like in two hours, but then for me to add all my meat and potatoes, I gotta keep feeding it. I gotta come back. I gotta do this. I gotta lay this down. I gotta lay that down. Now, what you can use AI for is, for me, I am not a high soprano. So with this new actual project that I created an all girl, all female ensemble where I am the artist who is a part of the ensemble. And what I did was, it's called For You to ID, which means I ID stands for Intelligent Diva. And Intelligent Diva is my name as an artist, but also the creativity of it. When I go to a studio, like I just said, I record where I'm doing the leads, I'm doing the vocals for the backgrounds, I'm doing the harmonies, I'm doing the different voices. I'm usually the one that's doing it all. Now, I cannot do the high soprano part, which comes into play where as part of the Warriors project, I wanted to take, a part of that project, which I loved everything about that era in that part of my life. It's like soothing to me. So therefore, I recreated it. And for this particular project, which is dropping on Thanksgiving Day, that's why for the cover you'll see 4 AI images of me. However, I also have other AI personas in there, to basically generate these different voices you hear for that effect of an ensemble. Now, I am not doing the high soprano parts. That's not me. I'm an alto. I am on the song where I'm doing the first, second verse. I'm also doing the background vocals. I am also doing some of the lead vocals for the alto parts only. I am also singing with the AI who is doing the high soprano parts. How did you make that happen? Well, that is because I took the song, and after the song was recorded, I took their vocals out. And then I put my vocals on, and I kept certain parts of the vocals that I wanted to harmonize with to make the song sound bigger. I did the different parts of the choir. And then I also went up under the lead, and the one when the lead is singing soprano, and in vice versa, play some of their vocals up under me. What that means is 90% of the song is me. 10% of the song is AI at that point from a vocal perspective, because I am from the beginning to the end, where it's coming in only within certain parts. And because with some AI tools are better than others when it comes to the vocals, and where they don't, that's where I'm filling it in to make it to what I want. Now, this most recent project that I created, I have a background in the chorus. I also used to sing in the choir, and I love harmonies. I grew up singing in church as well, but I've gone through so much this year till it is unbelievable. And it was a lot just weighing on me. And I just felt like, God, I'm just trying to stand. Now, when it comes to that, I wanted to recreate that. And when I go to the studio, first of all, I want to let you guys know, the first song that I recorded was a human and AI collab, was I'm a Virgo. I created the persona Racia, and I actually wrote the lyrics, and the song came from a poem that I wrote about myself, about me being a Virgo. And with that, I decided, okay, I'm going to make this into like a human and AI collab. Now, there are certain things you can ask AI. You can say, hey, I want to have this many people on the song. AI may not always give you that, and sometimes it will, but it's not quite to how you want it. So I took the song and I actually put my lyrics in. I did say I wanted it to be a female. I gave the song structure of the song. I document all this on paper, because of the fact that I have to put it into my GPT as far as my lyrics and everything. And my GPT, with my ScoreFlow GPT, will also help create my credits for me. So it creates, my credits that I'm going to use to put in the distributor site, the credits and the percentages that you would use to put into your BMI. I also have it to where it will document like a human authorship disclosure, meaning I'm being very transparent with you in how I'm using AI. Okay. The actual tool, the ScoreFlow GPT, that's the tool I created, but I'm still putting my information into it, meaning these are my requirements. I'm not asking you to tell me lyrics to a song. I am giving you these are my lyrics to the song. I need it to summarize and for the composition of the song for me to get what I want from Tad AI. And Tad AI will allow you to put your actual song lyrics. It will also give you the ability to put your own song information into it if you want. It will also give you the ability to have it write the song for you, and then it asks you like what genre do you want it, what do you want the mood to be in your tempo. That's not enough for me. So there is a section where you can also include that 300 character description, and that is where I add those additional details that they don't have a filter for me to be able to select it. So I wanted to have that additional information so that we can get the composition as close to as possible. I have instruments, I have the BPM, I have the range sometimes because I am also going to get on the song. So if I'm going to get on the song, I'm an alto, which means that I may either want, if I want a female on the song, I may want that person to be an alto. Maybe I want them to be a first soprano, a second soprano, which means that if I'm going to get on a song, I need to make sure that the music or the composition is also in the key or the range of the song that I'm going to be on as an alto. So those are details that I put into it. Again, that is part of you creating human authorship. That doesn't mean, oh, AI created it. Yeah, based on your instructions. It's no different than you going to someone else and saying, hey, this is how I want it. You write down your recipe. That is your recipe. So you're just cutting those steps out to where, it's going to cost you less time and possibly less money.